A century ago, the British planted a sports bomb in Tianjin, not made of gunpowder, but of a code that would rewrite the history of Chinese architecture. Today, it has transformed into Asia's most magical urban living room. Now, follow me as we unlock this window into China, because this is one of the best ways to truly understand the country. At Minyuan Square in Tianjin, every single column tells a hidden story. Back in 1926, an Italian architect wrote in his journal, "Chinese craftsmen are destroying the history of architecture." But he was wrong. They weren't destroying anything. They were actually creating an entirely new architectural style. Today, you're going to witness a cultural revolution that changed history. These 20 columns are like messengers that cross time and space. They blend ancient Greek, Roman, and Renaissance European styles with traditional Chinese craftsmanship. What's even more amazing is that hidden within these columns is a Chinese innovation, the Wanzi Wen column. One of these columns hides a shocking secret. Can you find it? Here's a clue. Its capital is engraved with the name of a Tianjin craftsman, Wang Tiechui, written in seal script, nestled deeply in a swirl of grass patterns. It's a small detail, but it reflects massive historical significance. You might not know this, but there's a complex historical background behind the construction of Minyuan Square. At the beginning of the 20th century, Tianjin was a city with multiple foreign concessions. In Western history, concessions referred to areas of Chinese cities occupied and governed by foreign powers. Just like the Bund in Shanghai, Tianjin's various concessions were symbols of foreign expansion, thriving in trade, but also marked by colonial influence. In 1928, the French and Italian concessions each built their own iconic commercial squares, which put a lot of pressure on the British concession. So the British decided to create their own signature public space to showcase their influence in the city. That's when an Italian designer, Baunadi, was chosen to design the square. He cleverly combined Mediterranean elements with British aesthetics, creating an architectural marvel that still leaves people in awe today. The square is filled with all kinds of columns, representing the former colonial empires. These 20 different styles of columns symbolize the grandeur of the British Empire on which the sun never set, including the Tuscan columns for Italy, the Doric columns for Greece, and the Corinthian columns for Asia Minor. These columns aren't just architectural elements. They are silent symbols of imperialism, quietly telling the story of colonial expansion. Try taking a closer look at the column in the southwest corner. It hides the craftsman's bronze signature. Imagine, in Italy, Michelangelo painted his own portrait on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. In Tianjin, craftsman Wang Tiechui left his mark here too. His hammer signature is cleverly embedded in the swirling grass patterns of the third Tuscan column. Wang Tiechui, a master mason who had worked on the restoration of the Summer Palace, transformed the swirl of the letter D into an ancient bronze dragon pattern, even embedding 2 Guangxu Tongbao coins in the dragon's eyes. Minyuan Square isn't just a cultural heritage site in Tianjin. It's a testament to the wisdom and creativity of Chinese craftsmen. It's a historical relic full of stories, just waiting for us to explore. Standing on Fifth Avenue, the first thing you need to know is when the story of this historic land actually began. A lot of people know that the establishment of the British concession in Tianjin in 1860 marked the start of an important chapter in history. But the story we're seeing today really starts in 1902. That's the year the British Foreign Office signed the first land sale contract. From that moment, prominent Chinese figures began buying land and building houses here, and Tianjin became a stage where modern and traditional worlds collided. Many significant historical events played out right here. This place became where Eastern and Western cultures collided, fused, and took root. It was home to 23 presidents and prime ministers, 38 warlord leaders, and consuls from 12 different countries. By 1920, this area was called the Wall Street of the East. The collection of buildings on Fifth Avenue became a showcase of architectural artistry. Over 300 grand little Western-style houses stood like a group of gentlemen in suits and bowler hats, sitting together on this land. You might be wondering, Why would there be Italian-style columns or French rooftops in a British concession? It wasn't some designer's deliberate choice. It was just the accidental blending of history and culture. Over 100 years ago, the unstable political situation in China turned this place into a gathering spot for the elites. In 1903, the British concession was the first to introduce a sewage system. This cutting-edge facility made the area seem more modern than the old city, making it the model for living at the time. That's why so many influential figures and socialites chose to live here. The elite with dual identities of that time redefined their cultural identity here through architecture. On one hand, they built Western-style buildings as required by the British Foreign Office. On the other hand, they cleverly incorporated Chinese traditional culture through design details. For example, some homes had carvings of the 8 immortals on the roof, brick carvings replacing house numbers, and even altars in the banquet halls that could be lowered from the ceiling during ceremonies. What's even more clever is that Chinese owners exploited a loophole in the 1903 British Concession Expansion Act, which stated that buildings had to meet sanitation and aesthetic standards, but didn't specify what aesthetic actually meant. Smart Chinese owners realized this and added Chinese elements to Western architecture. They hid Suzhou-style paintings under the roof of the Mengsha house and transformed Western fireplaces into Buddhist altars, and these changes didn't violate the treaty's requirements. By the 1920s, it almost became a rule here: buy the land but not the style, kind of like today's eclectic mix-and-match vibe in online shopping. You bought British land, but you insisted on including Chinese elements in the design. For example, some homes had 5 blessings carvings above the door, or the roof designs were aligned according to the position of the Big Dipper. These subtle changes allowed both Chinese and Western cultures to truly take root here and grow in this land. Right next to Minyuan Square is the Qing Wangfu, located at 55 Chongqing Road in the Heping district of Tianjin, which used to be on Cambridge Road in the old British concession. While Sherlock Holmes was solving crimes in London, the Chinese version of Downton Abbey was playing out an even more thrilling story in Tianjin. A lot of people might not know this, but this mansion was originally built by the last eunuch of the Ming Dynasty, Xiao Dejiang, who planned to make it his retirement home. But despite pouring tons of effort into it, just 2 years later, Prince Qing took a liking to the place, and reluctantly, Xiao Dejiang sold it to him. It became known as the Qing Wangfu. This story might just show us that, over a century ago, without enough power, even your own property could be taken from you. The main entrance to the Qing Wangfu features a traditional Chinese carved gate with a golden plaque hanging above that reads Qing Wangfu. On the west side, the auxiliary building still has the Belgian-style stained glass windows from 1922. In the courtyard, there's a century-old dragon claw locust tree whose crown looks like the hat of a Qing Dynasty official. Even more mysterious, in the basement, construction plans from 1924 were found, and the original design included a rotating stage. However, due to opposition from a feng shui master, this idea was abandoned, although it was later successfully implemented in New York's Broadway theaters. But perhaps the most astonishing feature is the garden's fake mountain. It's actually a miniature version of China's map. Among the rocks, there's a Shi Gandang stone tablet with an inscription from the last Prince Qing, Jiazhen, detailing his journey to Tianjin. Imagine this. While Indiana Jones is hunting for the Holy Grail, the Tomb Raider is washing antiques in the fireplace of the Qing Wangfu. This is where the Nine-Dragon sword was hidden for 90 days, a story more twisted than any James Bond spy movie. Then there's the 207-degree curved corridor, which is mind-blowing. Touching the Belgian stained glass, the light passing through seems clearer than ancient glass. Jiazhen specifically requested that the European iris designs be replaced with cranes, and each crane's flying direction represents thence one of the 24 mountain directions in feng shui. What's even more incredible is that every summer solstice at noon, sunlight shines through the glass and forms a star map that resembles the Heitu Luo Shu, a method Jiazhen used to predict his future. In 1931, he saw from the stars that the northeast was extremely ominous, so he quickly took his family and escaped to Shanghai, cleverly avoiding the September 18th incident. A few steps further is the Gu Weijin Mansion, located at 267 Hebei Road in the Five Avenues area, near the intersection of Hebei Road and Chongqing Road. Gu Weijin once engaged in intense debates with world powers at the Palace of Versailles, and at his Tianjin mansion, he cleverly used the wisdom of the I Ching to adapt French-style architecture. The columns of the porch hide the Heitu Luo shoe patterns, and an emergency escape tunnel leads straight to the French concession. It's hard to imagine, but this very tunnel was used in 1941 to send critical information that eventually altered General Stilwell's Burma campaign plan. The mansion's architecture is a mix of styles, combining many design elements. The main building features an Italian Renaissance style, with parts of it incorporating English country house features, like the steep red-tiled roof. The basement holds a French wine cellar and even has an escape tunnel, which was used in 1941. The columns of the porch are based on the Hall of Mirrors at Versailles, symbolizing the scene of the Paris Peace Conference. In the study, there's even a liftable safe that once held the original documents from the 21 Demands negotiations. In 1931, Gu Weijun secretly hosted the League of Nations investigation team here to discuss the September 18th incident. In 1945, the basement tunnel became a hub for anti-Japanese intelligence. If you look closely at the mansion's exterior, there are even more surprises. Notice the Chinese brick carvings on the east side gable, which contrast with the purely European facade on the west side. This is a metaphor for diplomatic duality. You can also try to spot the entrance to the underground tunnel. Though it's now sealed, you can still see the blue brick arch structure through the basement ventilation shaft, and its direction is parallel to today's Chongqing Road, with the endpoint facing the former Pasteur Institute in the French concession, which is now the Financial Museum on Jiefang North Road. Walking along the Five Avenues, admiring the fusion of Chinese and Western cultures from over a century ago, I can't help but imagine that British engineer Anderson, when planning Cambridge Road, never could have predicted that his Georgian-style row houses would be so dramatically altered by Chinese owners. The original symmetrical facades were forcibly rotated by 15 degrees by a feng shui master to avoid bad luck. The basement wine cellar was transformed into a hidden room for fox spirit worship, and the iron railings' rose patterns were replaced with subtle Eight Immortals symbols. Yet everything happened so naturally. If you're willing to walk a few more hundred meters, you'll come across the former residence of Zhou Suisi, located at 284 Hebei Road, Heping District, Tianjin, formerly known as Wellington Road in the British concession. This building pioneered many design concepts. One notable feature is the roof design. Chinese craftsmen calculated the slope of the mansard roof according to the techniques in the Yingzhou Fashi, treatise on architectural methods. Compared to the neighboring French-style mansard roofs, Zhou Shuixi's roof is noticeably steeper, and the eaves were extended by 0.5 meters. The architectural style of this house is a blend incorporating both the English Queen Anne Revival style and Chinese feng shui principles, especially the steep red-tiled roof. The columns of the porch are intricately carved with ironworking images from Tiangong Kaiwu, a Chinese scientific treatise, visible only under side lighting. The building at number 3, Machang Road, with its three-story brick and wood structure, exemplifies the fusion of Chinese and Western architecture. Some areas are now open as a community activity center. The first-floor exhibition hall showcases Zhou Shuixi's manuscripts, early products from Qin Cement Company, and industrial maps of North China. On the second floor, facing the street, you'll find a 9-meter-long balcony with decorative cement patterns under the windows, merging traditional scroll motifs with industrial gear elements. There's also an interesting episode in the building's history. British engineers once used a drill to check the walls, but the drill bit broke when it hit a layer of porcelain, leading them to mistakenly classify it as high-quality concrete. This error became one of the biggest frauds in the Far East Architectural Yearbook. However, perhaps the most significant aspect isn't just the building itself, but a historic lawsuit that took place here. In 1915, German architect Behrens sued the owner Zhou Shuishi, accusing him of unauthorized additions to the neoclassical facade, specifically the brick-carved Five Blessings and Longevity pattern. Zhou's lawyer presented a map of Tianjin, proving that this pattern had existed in Chinese tradition 600 years before the Greek key design. This case ultimately established the cultural priority principle, which had a profound impact on the integration of Chinese and Western cultures. There are many little-known pieces of trivia that, once known, will allow you to truly understand the beauty of Wudadao and get to know Tianjin. If one afternoon you find yourself strolling down Wudadao, remember to stop by the old residences of Shuxichang and Sunchuanfang, where you can see the fusion of Eastern and Western cultures reflected in their unique locks. The top part is a British Chubb insurance lock, while the bottom part is a custom-made Bagua mechanism created by Tianjin's Yongfa Lock Company. The old Chinese aristocrats used to say, "Western locks prevent thieves, while the Bagua locks ward off evil spirits." Continue to 117 Machang Road, and you'll touch a line that divides civilizations. The exterior of this British merchant's mansion hides a sandwich layer in architectural history. Its outer layer consists of standard Manchester red bricks, while the inner layer is mixed with bricks from the Ming Dynasty Great Wall, remnants from the Beitang Battery dismantled during the construction of the Beijing-Tianjin Railway in 1903. Running your fingers along the brick seams, you can feel the temperature difference between two civilizations, the industrial precision of the British bricks and the handmade texture of the Great Wall bricks. Go to listen to the time capsule of Zhang Zuoxiang's former residence and hear the Tiger Window's secrets. In the residence of this northeastern military commander, the copper drain pipe of the Tiger Window forks 1.5 meters above the ground. One pipe drains water, while the other extends into an underground listening pipe. If you place your ear close to the wall's copper lion decoration, you can still hear the faint echoes of a secret conversation from 1928. Soundwave restoration has confirmed that it was a conversation between Zhang Shuiliang and Zhang Zuoxiang about changing the flag of Northeast China, with background noise from a gramophone playing The Drunken Concubine. Next, visit the site of Li Shutang's former residence to unlock the mystery of the cherry and plum tree fusion legend. According to local folklore, the cherry and plum symbiotic tree in the backyard of Li Shutang's residence was an experimental hybrid grafted by Master Hongyi during his stay in Japan in 1905. Japanese mountain cherry branches were grafted onto the stump of an ancient Chinese plum tree, and the junction was wrapped with a piece of the master's hand-copied Diamond Sutra. Every April, the west side of the tree blossoms with light pink cherry flowers, while the east side blooms with deep red plum blossoms, creating the stunning sight of half-tree, half-zen. In 1942, a Japanese monk tried to transplant this tree to Tokyo, but was struck by lightning and died. Locals claim they saw the tree bark display the words mixed emotions in Chinese. Of course, not everything here is glamorous. Sun Dianying, 1889 to 1947, a warlord from the Republic of China, had a relationship with Wudadao that is filled with dark humor. This neighborhood, famous for its elegant small Western-style houses, became a crime transit point for him to launder stolen treasures and seek refuge. In 1928, after Sun stole treasures from the tombs of Empress Dowager Cixi and Emperor Qianlong in the eastern tombs, he sold about 30% of the looted goods overseas through a foreign trading company in the Tianjin concession. These treasures included jade watermelons and night pearls. He even set up a temporary warehouse in the basement of the British-style market building on Machang Road, employing members of the Green Gang to guard it. This warehouse is now within the area of Tianjin Foreign Studies University. In 1930, Sun purchased a 3-story Italian-style villa at 55 Chongqing Road through a French concession lawyer named Lei Shisheng, later a puppet mayor of Tianjin, under the name of a Li family merchant. The villa's basement contained a blast-proof vault hiding fragments of Eastern tomb artifacts, discovered during 12 renovation. In 1933, Sun hosted a banquet for Japanese military officers at the former residence of Zhang Shaozeng on Munan Road. the original residence of the Beiyang government's premier, attempting to exchange treasures for protection from Japanese forces. Among the items displayed was a Tang Dynasty gilded Buddha pagoda, which later became crucial evidence in Sun's trial for treason in 1946. In 1945, on his last night before fleeing, Sun hid the remaining artifacts in the fireplace cavity at 24 Changde Road. When the homeowner renovated in 1953, this collection, including fragments of the Chishi's Dharani Sutra, was unexpectedly found. As you stand at Marco Polo Square, gaze at the statue of the explorer pointing eastward, he could never have imagined that, 600 years later, the craftsmen of Tianjin would carve scenes from Journey to the West from marble from his homeland. These buildings are not just a blend of civilizations, they are a third kind of beauty forged through war, silver, and cultural dignity.